I found myself camping alone in the dense woods of northern Michigan. The moon was completely covered by thick clouds, and an eerie silence lingered across the forest. As I settled into my tent, a strange feeling washed over me. I couldn't shake the sensation that I was being watched. I brushed it off as just being paranoid from camping alone for the first time ever. That's when I heard a distant sound of footsteps echoing through the trees. I tried to convince myself I was imagining things. But the footsteps persisted, getting closer and louder. Just as I was about to get out to look around, the forest fell silent. No crickets, no rustling leaves, just stillness. And just when I thought I was alone again, a voice, soft as a cake, whispered my name. "Come outside, Gertrude McFuzz." Chills ran down my spine as I realized. The voice was familiar, almost mimicking the tone of my stepmom. Against my better judgment, I unzipped the tent and stepped into the darkness. There, at the other side of my camp, I saw a figure. It wore the skin of a wolf, its eyes gleaming with an otherworldly light. A Skinwalker. I froze as it spoke in the voice of my stepmom, urging me to follow it deeper into the woods. My instincts screamed at me to run, but my legs felt like lead. The creature moved gracefully, its form shifting between human and animal. It circled me, whispering secrets, dark, twisted tales that sent shivers down my spine. Suddenly the wind picked up, and the trees started to close in around me. I broke free from my trance and sprinted back to my tent. The whispers pursued me, but I was too scared to look back. Inside my tent, I zipped it shut and listened as the creature circled my tent, its whispers growing fainter as the sun got higher. Dawn finally broke, and the forest grew quiet once again. But I couldn't shake the feeling that the Skinwalker was still out there, waiting in the shadows. So, TikTok, if you ever find yourself alone in the woods and hear a voice calling your name, don't follow it. You might just encounter a Skinwalker, a creature that wears the faces of those it seeks to lure into the darkness. Stay safe out there. My encounter with a Skinwalker. The wind whispered through the ancient pines as I trudged along the desolate trail, the darkness pressing in on all sides. My flashlight flickered, casting long shadows that danced eerily through the dense forest. I couldn't shake the feeling that unseen eyes were watching me, and the crunch of leaves beneath my boots sounded like distant whispers. I had heard the legends of skinwalkers, shapeshifters with a taste for human flesh, but I dismissed them as mere tales meant to scare children around campfires. Tonight, however, the legends seemed to claw their way out of the realm of fiction and into the tangible darkness that enveloped me. The air grew colder, and an unsettling silence settled over the woods. I quickened my pace, my heart pounding in my chest. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being hunted, that something unnatural was lurking just beyond my line of sight. As I turned a bend in the trail, my flashlight caught a pair of eyes in the distance, yellow orbs that glowed with an otherworldly intensity. My breath caught in my throat as I strained to see what manner of creature possessed such eyes. The eyes disappeared, but the feeling of being watched only intensified. The forest seemed to close in around me, the trees casting long, gnarled shadows that twisted and contorted like malevolent spirits. I stumbled over roots and rocks, my nerves on edge. It was then that I heard it, a soft guttural growl that seemed to reverberate through the very ground beneath my feet. I froze, my eyes scanning the darkness for the source of the sound. The growl came again, closer this time, and I felt a chill run down my spine. I desperately tried to convince myself that it was just an animal, but a primal fear clawed at the edges of my mind. A shadowy figure emerged from the trees, its form indistinct and ever-shifting. It moved with an unnatural grace, gliding through the darkness like a wraith. Panic set in as I realized that this was no ordinary creature of the woods. This was a Skinwalker. The wind whispered unintelligible words, carrying with it the stench of decay. The creature's eyes locked onto mine, and a malicious intelligence seemed to gleam within them. Without warning, it let out a blood-curdling howl that echoed through the night, causing my heart to race even faster. I turned and ran, my footsteps echoing through the silent forest. The creature pursued, its howls and growls growing louder with each passing moment. The trees twisted and contorted, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers to snatch at me as I fled. I didn't dare look back, the fear propelling me forward through the darkness. The trail seemed to stretch on endlessly, the woods closing in around me like a suffocating cocoon. My breath came in ragged gasps, and I could feel the creature's presence hot on my heels. Just when I thought my legs would give out, I burst into a clearing bathed in moonlight. The creature halted at the edge of the trees, its form flickering like a dying flame. It let out one final mournful howl before disappearing into the shadows. I stood there, panting and trembling, the echoes of the encounter lingering in the air. The legends were true. The Skinwalkers were real, and I had danced on the precipice of their malevolent world. As the wind carried away the haunting whispers, I knew that the woods held secrets darker than any campfire tale could convey. Story 3. My Skinwalker Encounter. I struggle to recall the stories shared by my Navajo family, but the next time I connect with them over Skype, I'll make it a point to ask for a refresher. However, I do have a personal encounter that I need to share. A set of eerie events that unfolded directly in my life. Brace yourself for my first-hand experience. It all began when my two brothers, David and Luke, along with Luke's girlfriend, Sarah, and I decided to spend some time in the southern Utah desert, surrounded by the breathtaking beauty of red dirt. Armed with pistols, we embarked on a trip to Devil's Heartbeat for some target practice. Though unfamiliar with the location, I was intrigued by the canyon, which housed Anasazi ruins on the opposite side. Ignoring the Navajo aversion to Anasazi ruins, I felt an inexplicable pull towards exploring them. Disregarding the potential danger, I descended the cliffs without any safety equipment, determined to cross the canyon floor and climb back up. It was a foolish idea, driven by an overwhelming magnetism that I couldn't resist. As I struggled with the rocky terrain, a growl from below halted my progress. Fearing a mountain lion, I quickly retreated. We continued our activities, shooting guns and enjoying the scenery. However, during Sarah's turn, an unexplained quietness enveloped us, and a strange growl laugh echoed from behind. Despite our clear view, there was nothing visible in the vicinity. The unsettling part was that while David, Sarah, and I heard it from a close distance, Luke heard the same noise right by his ear. As night fell, we camped out, hoping to witness any unusual occurrences. My fear escalated when the canyon filled with bizarre noises resembling rocks being smacked together, echoing like Morse code. After David shouted for silence, an eerie zebra-like noise emanated from the ruins, accompanied by a cacophony of other animal sounds. We promptly left, disturbed by the inexplicable events. That night, my unease persisted. When I shared my failed attempt to reach the canyon ruins with my Navajo mother, she revealed a disturbing truth. Spirits in the ruins lure people up and then push them off. This revelation haunted me for the remainder of my visit. Later, I explored a public accessible kiva alone, thinking it would be safe from the spirits that had unnerved me earlier. Little did I know, a more ominous encounter awaited me. Fast forward a few weeks during my first night alone at a Salt Lake City call center. Feeling uneasy after the kiva experience, I joined coworkers for a smoke break. While standing outside, I spotted a dog-like figure in the distance, limping and walking strangely. Ignoring the warnings about skinwalkers, I approached the creature, only to witness its unnaturally human-like features, including huge eyes and a disturbing growl. Fueled by fear, I raced back inside, only to find the creature gone when I dared to look back. Convinced by my brothers that it was a skinwalker, they performed a blessing to ward off any lingering malevolence. The creepy, bloody dog never reappeared, and my desire to visit cliff ruins vanished entirely. Story 4. The Roadrunner. Long, long ago, before roads and cities adorned the great Sonora Desert, before the Wild West era, and long before the earliest European settlers arrived at Plymouth Rock, there lived a revered medicine man and his son. The healer, renowned across the Navajo lands and beyond, was sought after by war chiefs and villagers alike for his wisdom in the ways of healing. His son, a spirited young lad named Mai, was known for different reasons, particularly his charm, and popularity among the women in the villages. The old medicine man was troubled by Mai's tendencies to neglect his training in pursuit of pleasure. Concerned for his son's future, the wise father decided to send Mai on a spiritual journey into the vast reaches of the desert. The goal was to find the juice of a mystic cactus, said to open the mind and connect with the spiritual plane. This journey was intended to instill enlightenment and shape Mai into a responsible healer. Though Mai protested vehemently, the old man insisted that this journey was essential for his growth. The lad set forth into the desert, resentful of the burdens placed upon him, surrounded only by sand, rattlesnakes, and tumbleweed. His journey was arduous, marked by struggles for sustenance and moments of despair. After enduring months of hardship, Mai finally found the mystical cactus with its pink flowers. He extracted the sacred liquid, known as the divine juice, and consumed it. Almost instantly he felt his perception and awareness expand, connecting with the spirits of the land. Overwhelmed with wonder, he called out to the spirits, declaring his willingness to learn and be their ally. However, instead of a warm welcome, Mai found himself mocked and ridiculed by the spirits. They accused him of disrespecting them in the past and deemed him unworthy of their presence. In desperation, he pleaded for forgiveness and a chance to prove himself. Amidst the spirits' laughter, a soothing female voice spoke to him, offering solace. The voice belonged to Natsedlozi, a spirit claiming to be different from the mocking entities. Natsedlozi assured Mai that she was all ears and listened as he expressed his desire to become a healer and use his knowledge for the greater good. Intrigued, Natsedlozi proposed a deal, promising to grant him not only the knowledge to be a healer but also additional powers, immunity to harm, the ability to cure or cause diseases, eternal life, beauty, and the gift to transform into his totem animal. Eagerly, Mai accepted the offer without realizing the consequences. The next day, he awoke in a clearing, realizing his newfound abilities. Excited and invigorated, he rushed back to his father's hut, only to discover that his father had been killed, and the blame fell on him. The warriors accused him of making a deal with Natsedlozi, the wicked spirit who took his father's soul. Rejected by his people and branded a murderer, Machi fled to the desert in despair. He encountered Natsedlozi again, but this time she revealed her true malicious nature. Mocking his misery, she explained that he himself had sealed the deal, sacrificing his father in the process. Enraged and heartbroken, Mai transformed into a coyote and began an eternal pursuit of Natsedlozi, the roadrunner spirit. The chas became a legendary tali, passed down through generations, a cautionary story of deals with malevolent spirits. Now, why do I share this old Navajo folklore with you? Well, this forgotten story found its way to a white man named Chuck Jones from Spokane, Washington, who later transformed it into an animated tale that some of you may have heard, the timeless saga of a coyote chasing a roadrunner. My father once shared a story with me that has stuck in my memory for various reasons. It was the first tale he ever recounted to me as a child, and it happened to involve the death of my grandfather. However, that's not what makes it unforgettable. In life, we often dismiss stories we hear on TV or overhear in public, tales of ghosts and aliens, thinking they're either fabricated, mistaken, or the product of someone's imagination. It's hard to believe until an event occurs that connects the dots in ways we hadn't considered. Perhaps it happens to us, or we hear similar stories from different people. Suddenly the world becomes much larger than we thought. This particular story, told by my father. I initially doubted despite his adamant claims of its truth. It wasn't until I delved into the depths of the internet, stumbling upon similar narratives, that I began to reconsider. My father, who had never used the internet, referred to it as a skinwalker, a term from an old Cherokee tale passed down by his grandfather. Let me recount the story as my father told it. We were out hunting one night in the woods surrounding the Ohio dairy farm where we lived. We were tracking coyotes, killing them for $50 a skin because they sometimes preyed on calves. We needed the money, so every night we'd be out there. On occasion, we'd stumble upon a deer, providing us with some extra food for our family. One evening, after finishing our rounds and heading home on foot, since we didn't have a car or four-wheeler, we cut through the woods. That's when we stumbled upon a gruesome scene. Blood everywhere, on trees, grass, in the creek, everywhere. Initially, we thought it might be a pack of coyotes, but this was different. It wasn't the typical calculated attack. Instead, it seemed as though something had torn apart a group of deer, leaving scattered body parts. We decided to investigate, thinking it was a threat we had to eliminate. My dad, suspecting a pack of feral dogs, told me to go home, but I refused to leave him, armed only with a .22 and a pocket knife. I was 13, and a .22 rifle was the only gun I could handle reliably. We followed the blood trail, and soon, we heard terrifying sounds, screams of various animals in distress. The normally quiet night turned chaotic as creatures fled in fear. We should have realized that whatever we were tracking might be something we weren't meant to see or confront. We reached an open valley, an unused soy field, where we discovered tracks leading to an old tornado-damaged schoolhouse on a hill. The tracks were shallow, indicating a creature weighing no more than 100 pounds. We followed them to find it devouring a carcass, revealing a pale figure with human-like limbs, but a distorted appearance. It had long fingers with claws. My dad hesitated, hoping it wasn't a person. When he cleared his throat, an eerie silence fell upon the night. That thing turned around, emitted a shrill cry, and attacked my dad. He managed to shoot, but it seemed unfazed. I shot it with the .22 and even hit it with the gun's butt, but it barely bled. It continued tearing my dad apart, and I was helpless. At some point, my dad's knife ended up in the creature's shoulder, and I found myself running with my dad's remains on my back. It pursued me through the woods until I reached my landlord's house, where the community gathered around a campfire. They saw what was left of my dad and called for help. The creature screeched in the distance as we formed a barricade inside the house. It tried to break in, and chaos ensued. Eventually, the police arrived, and the creature disappeared. I ended up in the hospital and, upon returning home, learned that my landlord had vanished. My father, after my mother's death, returned to the woods and never came back. The FBI got involved, but it felt like a mere show. An agent, under the influence of alcohol and a few bills, disclosed that they receive calls about disappearances in those woods every year. He wrote the creature's name on a napkin, leading me to an online search that revealed numerous stories, photos, and drawings of the same entity. Despite varying details, everyone who encountered it agreed on one thing: it's still out there, and no one can stop it. However, here lies a problem. My father lied. When my mother passed away, he seemed to have nothing left, settling old scores and returning to the woods, never to return. The FBI's involvement felt more like a charade, and the agent's reluctance to share more details left me with the haunting realization that the creature my father spoke of might indeed be out there, unstoppable and elusive.